Ella Cinema back, another dish. Rue Badley on that intro music again, just killing it. How we doing out there? Good, great, grand, and wonderful. Look, here we are again. I know that I have been slacking on the production lately, and I thought about giving this, a reason why I kind of stepped away for a month there. And then I thought to myself, it's none of your fucking business. I don't have to be producing and tap dancing for the man all the time. Sometimes you got to take a little break, and I've been going strong for quite a while here. And actually, I wasn't even prepared to come back until I saw one of the films that we're going to be discussing today, and I was fortunate enough to get somebody that worked on the film. Well, jack of all goddamn trades, if you ask me. But in my hiatus there, I was able to watch a lot of these films that have been piling up. I mean, Arrow alone, I think I have 40 Arrow releases. I got 3 Well-Go releases. It's getting out of control. Okay, but enough of that. Nobody cares what I've been going through. Nobody cares about the personal stuff. Entertain us, Sean. Entertain us. Okay. All right. Well, I just want to thank you for however you're choosing to join us today, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. I appreciate you. As you see on your screen, your dial, The Long Night. So that was one of the ones that I've been waiting to talk about. So what is The Long Night? Well, while searching for the parents she's never known, New York transplant Grace returns to her childhood southern stomping grounds with her boyfriend to investigate a promising lead on her family's whereabouts. Upon arrival, the couple's weekend takes a bizarre and terrifying turn as a nightmarish cult, yes, a nightmarish cult, and their maniacal leader terrorize the pair en route to fulfilling a twisted, ancient, apocalyptic prophecy. One of my favorite parts of the film is the scale that it turns. And we don't do spoilers here, but I'll just say what starts out small ends infinitely bigger than what you initially were to think. I can tell you that. So The Long Night is starring Scout Taylor Compton, Nolan Funk, Kevin Ragsdale, Deborah Kara Unger, and Jeff Fahey. It was good to see Jeff Fahey in it. Music by Sherry Chung, which I thought there was a couple times Sherry's score was top notch. And director of photography, you know what? I'm gonna let it ride. I like bumbling names, and I like hearing people stumble and bumble. Pierre Luigi Malavasi, maybe. Story by Mark Young and screenplay by Robert Shep. So, as most of the audience knows, I don't like doing this show anymore. I don't, unless I have somebody interesting to talk to, and I honestly only reached out to one person for this film because I was checking out his IMDb and everything, and this dude does it all. And I was like, man, I really hope that I can get him on the show. And he was nice enough to agree to come on. I actually had to cancel with him for the first time because I was dying. I was literally dying, and I've never had to reschedule a show ever. That's the first time ever. But anyway, director of The Long Night, joining the Ella Cinema podcast for the first time, Rich Ragsdale. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to actually reschedule and come back on, sir.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Hey, so I told you that these were going to be softball questions, but I was looking at your IMDb before we get into The Long Night. Sir, you've done a lot, my friend. Like, we're talking composer, editor, writer, cinematographer, special effect. You've had your hand in it all. Where did it start for you? The Hollywood dream, as it were. Where did it start for you? Because I think you went about it the right way. I mean, most people, they move out to California, New York, or whatever, and it's actor, director, writer, whatever. And looking back, at least speaking from when I went out to LA and failed, I should have started kind of maybe in sound, maybe anything but what I did start out in. And I was curious for someone like you, where did it start, man?
Well, I mean, I've always loved movies, and as a kid, I was a musician. I ended up getting interested in writing music for film. I ended up going to college for it, and then I moved out here, and I was unemployed for several years. And then I got fortunate enough to hook up with the composer Jonathan Wolff, who was at the time he was the guy, he's probably best known for scoring Seinfeld. And we were doing all these TV shows. And so I cut my teeth doing these TV shows. And then I started scoring video games. But the interesting thing about at the time when we were scoring all these sitcoms is you had your summers off, right? And I was very interested in photography and things of that nature. So I started studying, taking like night courses in photography and stuff just on the side. And I had my summers off. So I just spend my summers experimenting. And photography led to me doing some kind of experimental film work. It was all just kind of in the cracks. And there was this one short that I made that ended up, it won some awards. And it was like the first short I had ever sent out to like film festivals, and it was winning awards. And it screened at one festival with like a film by Guy Madden and the brothers Quay. I was just like, oh man, this is great. So I just thought, I'll try this. And, but I learned filmmaking on the job. I didn't go to film school or anything like that. So I just kind of transitioned from one thing to the other, and, I was still scoring things along the way. And it just kind of slowly transitioned from, being a composer into being a filmmaker. And I tried my hand at all the different jobs. So, I think that's to be a well-rounded director. It helps to have, know how to shoot, even if you're not the best shooter in the world, know how to edit, have an understanding of VFX and things like that. So.
Well, and to that point, I wanted to point out, I'm a big music connoisseur, and you actually turned me on to a group that I never heard of as I was kind of taking a glance at your work. Spindrift. I know this is a shameless plug, and we're not talking about Spindrift. Holy shit. I was playing track after track yesterday, just going, how did I not know about that? This is awesome. This is awesome. And I just wanted to tell you that you're responsible for that. I wouldn't even know if it weren't for checking your stuff out. I was just kind of like, oh, and I checked out the poster for it, and I was like, well, this looks really trippy and awesome. Like, I want to check these guys out. So
yeah.
I
went on. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's a shameless plug for Spindrift.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I went on the road with those guys. A friend of mine, Burke, was making a documentary about them. And it was a very weird documentary where they would play shows in ghost towns to no audience, and we would film it, so it was very strange, but very, very cool. They're great. And, their music is great. It was real fun to go on the road with the band.
I mean, and such, for those of you that haven't heard of it, and you're film fans, such a spaghetti Western feel to a lot of their stuff, which I was just like, well, how have I missed out on this? I'm ashamed.
Yeah, they're kind of Ennio Morricone meets Johnny Cash or something.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I should have said. See, this is why he's
the little punk with the little punk in there too. They're pretty raucous.
Well, I want to get to why you decided not to do the music for this one, because I was going down and I was looking at it, and we'll get there in a second. So let's back up a little bit. So how did you first become involved with the project of The Long Night?
Well, I got a phone call from one of the producers, and he was like, he's a guy I'd worked with in the past, and this guy named Ryan Johnson, he was like, hey, you want to come to South Carolina and make a movie? And or he sent me a text. I kind of thought he was kidding, so I didn't really respond. And then about a week later, I just texted him back. I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. So I called him on the phone, and he was like, we have this production and it's very much in trouble. Why don't you, if you want, you can come out, and we just need to get started like right away because the money's about to evaporate. And so I was kind of on the fence. I read the script. It was not awesome. I mean, I think
a lot of rewrites you guys went through, right?
Yeah. So there are a lot of people. I don't know what the original script that got greenlit was, but it was probably much better than what they sent me, because people have been tinkering with it, and it just had all these logic problems, and was like, it had gotten structurally, and they sent me like 2 or 3 different versions by the time I kind of agreed to do it. And, I basically agreed to do it if they would like hire my DP, let me hire the costume designer that I want, and let me bring on my friend Rob to rewrite it. and we had to go into production much quicker than I anticipated. So Rob was rewriting the script while we're shooting. I mean, it was really just like crazy.
I mean, it almost seems like we're doing that a lot these days with some of the lower budget indie films where we are. Well, and it's not that it's a bad thing. I think we live in a time now. I think when you and I were growing, I'm much older than I look. I think when you and I were growing up, tweaking on set, you like most of the time you didn't have the time or the money to be messing around, fucking around doing that. Whereas now, given how much cheaper some of the methods of shooting, or even like, drone shots instead of, buying a big crane or whatever, like even being able to cut down the cost on that, I think it gives you a lot of artistic freedom to be able to do that on set these days. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that they were just kind of stoked that we were getting the cameras rolling. That the cameras were about to start rolling, so they were very amenable to letting us at least try and kind of fix the problems in the script, and I think Rob did a good job with that. But like, to the budget point, I mean, by the time I got there, there's a crew that had been waiting around for a long time just to work. They'd spent a lot of money already, so there really was very little money left. So we had to like be very creative with our choices. The property was really big, and there were areas of the property that hadn't been exploited in the script, and it was like, like sort of like where we shoot, no spoilers, but where we shoot this sort of ending kind of sequence. I was like, it's right here. It looks super cool. It's got all this texture. It's like, why are we not using this? So it was just kind of walking around this. We were given some freedom to do cool things as long as we kept it cheap and on schedule.
Now, for my audience that, is going to sit down and watch this for the first time, and even a little bit for me now, let's just start with the drone shots now of the location. Now, is all that we are seeing, at least around the property, around the plantation, all of that's real? We're not matting shots or anything like that, or no CG or nothing, right?
No, there's none of that. There was one shot where there were some production vehicles in the shot because it's so wide, so like there was the trucks. We had to take the trucks out, but that was it. I mean, everything else is where we were, and we got fortunate. One of the guys on the crew knew this drone operator, came up from Georgia. We were shooting in South Carolina, and he just came out and did a day for us and just hosed down the area. So we got a lot of really great drone stuff.
Well, and I think, I mean, the beauty of drone shots these days is you can add significant scale to your piece by doing that. And I mean, there's a lot of, well, the film is beautifully shot. In fact, I want to make sure that I say his name again, Pierluigi Malavasi. I mean, the fact that you brought him on, I don't know that you could have made a better choice, man. Like this, I think a lot of what we're seeing, when you see small pictures like this, a lot of it is going to hinge on how well we make it look. And not only that, but I was listening to the commentary. Sherry's doing some heavy lifting with her score on those dramatic sequences. And I think, and again, we're not here to bash anyone or anything, but I think sometimes with the amount of content that we have that's being thrown our way on Netflix, Hulu, or whatever, I do think that there's sometimes the tendency as a filmmaker to overlook those, those aspects of the film. And for me, I've seen way too much. But that can make or break a film for me, like it just even the littlest thing. And I recall thinking multiple times throughout the film, I was like, man, this looks so goddamn good. And one of the tracking shots that you guys do throughout the house, I thought was, you don't need to, but for me as a connoisseur, like I want to see that. Now I know cinematographers would be like, well, we don't want you to notice that. We don't want you to, but I'm not a normal viewer, like that's for somebody else. And I'm sitting there going, you seeing this? This is great. This is great right here. And I mean, hearing you say that I had to have my cinematographer, I mean,
yeah,
excellent choice. And back to the location and some of the drone shots, that location mixed with some of the shots you guys use, haunting. absolutely haunting. Like I'm sitting there thinking, because I can toss myself into any film and I'm just thinking, fuck, man, what are we going to do? We are out in the middle of nowhere with these southern country bumpkins, and your brother being one of those country bumpkins at the gas station, which I liked. Oh, and I thought, like, in a lot of ways, if you take Scout and Nolan out of the mix, he sets the tone for the picture. Like, we know that Scout and Nolan they're headed south, but you're like, oh, okay, now we're in it. And it's what I like about it is it's very subtle. Like, it's not this like, we're going to hang on his face for 35 seconds and he's going to be maniacal, and they're going to be, and another thing too about that, some misdirection as well. Some misdirection, which is, that's a testament, I think, to you and Robert kind of putting this together. And again, like, sometimes I just lose train of thought because I get so caught up in blowing smoke about what I like about the film. But back to your brother, he sets the tone for the film.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree, and my brother is actually, he's a very good actor, and he's very funny. And we grew up in the South. We grew up in Tennessee. And so this was like, it was a no-brainer to put him in the film, and I wish the part was bigger, but, he killed it. And, we even gave him those huge glasses. To me, he looked kind of like a redneck George Romero or something,
Yeah, he did.
So,
now,
yeah, I mean, he's great.
One of the little things that, did I hear right now, is it him playing him that's doing the song that's playing in the gas station, or is that you?
No, that's him. He's a very good guitar player. So I thought it would be just kind of meta and sort of funny and like a good inside kind of gag to have him, score his own scene in a way, so it has this kind of, he plays a lot of bottleneck slide guitar style stuff. So, we just give it kind of, I wanted it to be like a minor key thing. So it has that kind of Skip James haunting kind of quality. And
so what you're saying is the whole goddamn family's talented. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
Oh, he is.
Oh, come on now. Come on. Even, you're just got done shooting a music video, and the music's not for me. In fact, you might not see it by looking at me. Huge gangster rap fan. Huge gangster rap fan. So the music wasn't for me. It's fine. But I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm just like, man, this looks beautiful. And I don't even I'm sorry, this is embarrassing. I don't remember the artist's name, but the song was cool. But I'm sitting there going, well, Rich's work is cooler to me, but that's no dig against her.
Hey, look, that video turned out really well. It's for a pop artist named Maisie K, and she wanted to do something that was kind of like sort of like Underworld, or Blade, like a vampire in training kind of action thing. And so,
it works. It really works. Couple of things about The Long Night. One big thing I typically ask everybody, because at least in the last year or so, shooting with COVID, was that an issue? And if it wasn't an issue, what were maybe some of the biggest challenges you had as a creator for The Long Night, if any?
Well, we actually got it in the can right before, like, the COVID stuff hit, so we already had the film shot, and we didn't actually get a chance to, it took a while to get the hard drive from there was like some weird political stuff or something, but we didn't get started editing right away. And Jay Gartland is my editor. We work on a lot of stuff together. And so he and I were sort of waiting around, and then we finally got the film and started cutting, and then COVID hit. And so we ended up doing a lot of stuff over Zoom. It was kind of a drag because it slowed things down quite a bit. And we did do a couple of pickups that were in the middle of COVID, like in the early days of COVID, sort of some of the more psychedelic stuff. One of the producers got some of that PPE money, and I was like, hey, let's spend it on some weird stuff. So So we shot that stuff in, sort of post lockdown, but in the sort of summer, after the, isn't like around September or something of 2020, I guess, whenever the lockdown stuff happened. And it was weird. It was all outdoors, so it wasn't a huge thing, but everybody was careful. But yeah, it was a real drag. Everybody's kind of paranoid.
What about creatively? Was there anything where you're like this particular shot? In fact, you know what? I don't even give a shit about the audience at this point. This is for me. Is there something specific in the film that you were like, oh, this particular scene? Well, on that day, we, whatever. Because I'm pretty sure when Jeff Fahey stepped in, you guys knocked that out of the park, no problem. Like when I was listening to the commentary, with the exception of kind of like the early going of the script, it didn't sound like, there wasn't these huge hangups that you may hear sometimes in filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing major, like no sets burned down, nobody got killed, but
damn it.
Yeah, but we had all the sort of issues that like low budget films have. I mean, like we had a very short schedule because there wasn't a lot of money. Fortunately, everything was kind of mostly contained on that property, so we didn't have any like huge company moves. There were some like casting foibles where they were trying to find the like the character that Jeff Fahey plays. They went through a couple of different actors trying to find somebody, and so we had to kind of keep redoing our schedule based on that. There was just like all the logistical shit that happens, that's a headache. But really, I mean, Gigi and I have been doing this stuff together for a while. My DP, like we call him Gigi, Pierluigi. He's an Italian guy, and so in Scout I've worked with, and we had a good relationship. Everybody it was very small crew, so it had that kind of family vibe. I mean, everybody got along. There was not anything, there were no disasters. There'd be like maybe a special effect or something that didn't come off right, and we'd have to fix and post. But most of it was just, it was just the compressed schedule was the big issue.
Speaking of special effects, that's another thing. So I'm a huge, I think you talk to any true horror fan and they're big practical effects guys. And I just wanted the audience to know that I believe the first real scare, as it were, that's you that did the, I don't want to ruin too much, but say a welcoming at the door. That was all you, right? You put that together.
Yes. Yeah. So
I'll say Pentagon and nothing else. I'll just
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yes, that was me. That was me.
Awesome,
sort of,
man.
Yeah, it looked good. I thought it looked okay, so hopefully.
I thought it looked really, because again, like I understand that I'm watching it differently than other people, but like texture matters to me. The actual color matters to me. So like when I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh, I guess we got ourselves a horror film here. Like it was one of those, like, little moments for me that I gravitate to. And, you kind of start, scooching up in your chair and what's going to happen next, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy does music, this guy's directing, this guy does cinematography, and now he's talking about how he did the effects for this. And again, for something, for maybe you, it doesn't seem like, oh, well, it was a nothing thing. It was a little thing that we wanted to do. But to me, it's paying pretty big dividends in terms of where we're going to go next.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of these things also come out of like necessity. It's like, if I don't fix this, if I don't do this thing here, then, it just is going to suck. This is going to, like, people, people are, maybe they'll laugh at the movie anyway, but you don't want them to laugh at at things that were not, there's some moments in this film that there's one special effect in particular that involves an unusual light source that is, I knew going in that like people were going to think that this is they're either going to think it's like super cool and psychedelic and trippy, or they're going to think this is just ridiculous. And you have to own it with some of those things. And so I was like, we're doing this,
I think it looked great. In fact, it's one of my favorite aspects of the film is how well I think the lighting and the coloring suit the content. Like, and I mean that because again, to me, these little things can make or break a film. Something is, people may not, put too much stock into it like myself, but sound design, sound effects, I mean, to the littlest, it all matters to a lot of us, out there. It all matters. And I don't think that you guys swung and miss on anything. And I think kind of going back, we like to jump around on this show, but
Sure.
going back a little bit to the cast a little bit, I along with a lot of the things I like is the misdirection. And I think Jeff is a prime example of that, because you got me. I not what I thought was going to have happen, or what his place in all of this was going to be. And in fact, it was, for me, it was two misdirections. Well, you'll have to see what happens to Jeff, but also I kind of thought that it was going to be more negative than it was positive. I kind of thought, well, he's in cahoots and fuck this guy, and they brought in Jeff to, like it was one of those things. And then, as I said, the misdirection, I'm kind of like, oh, all right, all right, all right. So this is super serious now. this,
Yeah.
this is for real. So working with the cast, I mean, it seemed like the chemistry amongst everyone was really good. Now, I will say this about Nolan. I don't like him because he's too good looking. So Nolan,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, you're just too good looking. I think you're doing some fashion stuff right now with Lady Gaga. You're too good looking for me. I can't. I mean, I get that you're supposed to be dating Scout, and I believe that, the power couple, both looking good and everything. But I was just looking at it, I was like, you know what? You can't make it out of here. That's all I know, is I don't want you to make it out of here.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
But yeah,
no,
the chemistry was great, man.
yeah. I mean, I've made a film with Scout already, and so we knew each other. And a couple of the producers on this film, when I came on, had also worked on Ghost House, which was the film we had done before. And they actually suggested Scout. I mean, we didn't have much time to cast this, and she was in England doing one of these horror conventions, and so I called her and was like, "You want to come do a movie?" And she was like, "Sure." She flew straight from England to South Carolina.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then Nolan, I had met Nolan once a long, long time ago, and I had talked to some guys about scoring a film that he was in, and I ended up not doing it. It just was not a good fit for me at the time. And so I didn't really know Nolan, but he came recommended from a casting director, and there wasn't a lot of time. I looked at his reel. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's got, the requisite amount of talent to make a movie. And then, Jeff and Deborah were cast as we were shooting. And
Deborah was a great pull. Great pull.
She is awesome in this movie. And she, I remember the casting director called me one night after we got done shooting and sort of gave me a list of people they were thinking of. And I was like, Deborah was in the Cronenberg movie Crash, which I just love. It's one of my favorite movies of his. And I was just like, oh, you think she'll do it? And they're like, oh yeah, she'll do it. Come on, you just get on the phone. I had this epic, she was in Germany at the time, I think. We had this 3-hour conversation on the phone. So she was in.
All of them great. I mean, when I saw her, and just a little side note, an interesting thing about her, she gave the costume and makeup designers the makeup crew the brush off. She wanted to do her stuff herself, right?
Yeah. She ended up doing her own sort of pagan looking kind of makeup job. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, the reveal, I was just like, oh man, I think one of my favorite things about this is it's kind of the whole piece is it's a less is more, and that goes with her makeup. And I think we've it's so hard to say because there's so much stuff out there these days, but to me there are a lot of sequences in this film that remind me of old filmmaking, old Hollywood, in terms of let's unnerve you with the environment. Let's unnerve. And I'm one of the people, like, I don't like, don't get me wrong, I love gore. Give me all the blood
Yeah.
and guts and everything. But at the same time, like, you can also do something like The Changeling to me, and
Oh,
where, where I just by the environment and the atmosphere alone, I can be completely uncomfortable. And I think one of my favorite things about this film is that you guys do that, and where we end up. And again, I don't spoil anything, but I cannot stress to you, the audience, just how epic this really become this small thing really becomes. And sir, I think that's a testament to you and your crew. I really do. I mean, don't get me wrong, the cast is great, but at
yeah,
the same time, to add the gravity that you guys did, especially with a lot of the outer space sequence. I'll just say that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just fantastic, fantastic. I don't. If I say what it reminds me of, then people are going to be like, "Oh shit!" Well, now I don't need to watch it. Yes, you do. Yes,
You
you.
can, yeah, you can let me know later.
One of the last things before we've already ran over on time, but I don't give a shit because I'm having a good time with you. One of the things that I did want to ask you, because again, it was for my own curiosity, someone who started out scoring like you did, what was your choice to kind of stay out of it and let Sherry do the damn thing for The Long Night, as opposed to yourself? Not that, Sherry's less than you, or you would have done what, what I'm saying. It's just, what was it that you were just like, I just can't right now? Was it time?
It wasn't specifically time. It was a little bit, this movie, it just took a long time to finish. COVID was a real drag on us. And, I hadn't scored anything in a while. I needed to sort of update all my software and all that. And I was like, man, I just don't know if I was considering hiring somebody else. I was just like, and so I called a friend of mine, Joe Lisanti, who I've known since college, and he's a very established music editor. And I was like, maybe you could recommend somebody young, is up and coming. That's in. I mean, I've known Sherry for a while, and he was like, why don't you ask Sherry? She'll do it. And I was like, hey, she's really blowing up right now. And I was like, hey, you think she'll do it? And he's like, oh yeah, 100% she'll do it. So I called her and she said yes. And I mean, it was a really great collaboration because, my sensibilities musically, especially, as I get older and stuff, is they kind of start leaning more towards the avant-garde, and like we'd actually tempt the movie with a lot of like Penderecki. We even kept one Penderecki piece in the film, but like we tempt it with like Penderecki and all this kind of Eastern European avant-garde orchestral music. And she comes from a sort of more Hollywood kind of sound, and then and I think her sensibilities kind of butted up against mine, and they sort of meshed into something that is maybe better than something either one of us would have come up on our own. And so it pushed her to kind of do some of this more chaotic sounding music, but then she also brought in a lot more melody than I was anticipating. And I just think that synthesis it made for a really great score and a really really cool balance. So
I think without it, the film suffers. I really do. I think if you don't, and I'm actually, that's awesome to hear, kind of like you guys, the vision meshing together, because I think that there are times where, if not for her score, you again, like I'm also a hypocrite piece of shit. Like I'll start checking the phones, checking the watch, like,
yeah.
all right, we're kind of dropping the ball here a little bit. We're not carrying on the sequence. Or as sometimes I like to say, oh, we ran out of money for this 5 minutes. This 5 minutes here. We got to get back to the good stuff. Sir, before I let you go, I just did want to tell you some things. One thing that I heard on the commentary that I thought was the best way to describe this film, and I think, given what the statement is, I think you guys knocked it out of the park. If this is a supernatural siege film, and if you think of it like that, it's great. If you think of it like a cult film, it's great. If you think of it as this I mean, especially now that I know a little bit more about the film, rewriting the script from the ground up, and you making the decision like, no, I'm bringing my cinematographer, and even the editing. I mean, you know, I think you guys, some of the approach was used from a short film you did, The Loop, right?
Yeah, yeah.
With the edit. I mean, you start adding these little things up, and before you know it, like once we, and I've watched the picture 3 times now, when I get to that end every time, I have appreciated it. I liked it to begin with. After the first time I saw it, I reached out to you, and then the second time I watched it, I was like, all right, this is great. Third time with the commentary, and I'm going, if you don't like this film, I don't want to know you. I don't like, I mean, as a horror film, I mean, for real, man, I, I just think that more films like these need to get love. I'm glad that Well Go USA picked it up, and they were kind enough to, you know, let me talk about it. I mean, even with Shudder's a huge get these days in the horror crowd, and I, you know, I don't need to tell you that, but to have both those avenues, I just, it, to me, fuck what I'm saying. If you have Shudder and Well Go backing you, I think that's all the proof that, say, members of the audience need, just to how good this film is. And like I had mentioned earlier, as a less is more approach, and yet somehow making it modern with this epic scale on what I would assume is a relatively modest budget, sir.
How about a very modest budget?
So, and I kind of thought so, and
Yeah.
because of that, you guys need to be proud of your work. Not that you're not, but you guys, this is a great product, and I hope that it gets a lot of love. And I'm not just, I think you can tell by now, I don't just, if I don't want to do this, if I don't want to talk about it, I won't. I just,
Yeah.
I won't. I try to do pieces that I think that we need to be hearing more about. Like, you know, Marvel doesn't need me reviewing their shit for them, you know, whatever, but something like this all day. And I, I hate sequels. Okay. I hate them for the most part. I hate them.
Yeah.
If there was a sequel made for this film, I wouldn't be angry. Now, having said that, I think the ending is fucking great. I think it's a perfect way to end this film. I really do. And I thank you for coming on. I think your product's great, and I hope that we can talk in the future, man. I really do. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad you liked the film. I mean, we worked hard on it, so you
And
know.
it shows, man. It shows. I really believe that once it starts making its rounds on physical release, which will be next Tuesday, or yeah, this coming Tuesday, which is the 4th. You can see it there. You can see it on Shudder, however you want to do it. But I'm physical media until they put me in the ground, Rich. Physical media until they put me in the ground. I know I'm a dying breed, but Rich, thank you so much for coming on, man. I hope we can talk again, dude. Really, I do.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
All right, man. We're going to get Rich out of here. I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about the film, at least what you can find on the bonus features of this particular disc. You got the behind the scenes, the birthing, the look, and the score, which are some of the featurettes. You have the director's commentary. And as I mentioned about The Loop, you can actually watch that short film on the bonus features as well. So we'll be out of here. We'll be out here. I don't know, when I feel like it. When I feel like it. Rich was a goddamn good guest, was he not? I could talk to people like that all day. All day. The Long Night dropping April 4th. You can get it on Blu-ray. Support that physical media, as we were just talking about. Support Rich, the crew, Scout, Taylor Compton, Nolan, Kevin, Deborah. And I mean, come on, Shudder's picking up great horror films right now. Ellis Cinema, Rich Ragsdale, we're out of here. All right.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I mean it. Now you know I'm not bullshitting you. The mics are off. That's just a good film, man. I am so much more impressed with what you can do with a little as opposed to what you can do with a lot. I'm dead serious. So these are the films that I gravitate towards, and I wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't think it was good, man.
Well, I mean, like I said, I genuinely appreciate it, and it's it's like some people, like they don't like the pace or whatever, but I'm glad that you dug it. I do think that it's the kind of movie that if you were to watch it more than once, it definitely it gets better as opposed to some films don't,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
I agree.
But I could be wrong. I don't know, but my experience has been the more people see it, the more they seem to pick up on stuff and enjoy it. But hey, man, I really appreciate it. This was actually one of the better interviews I've done. So
Cool,
it's
cool.
certainly one of the most fun. So
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's again, like I try to be informative while it being a hang. Like I don't listen to Joe Rogan, but if I did, I guess it would be like I just want to have a hang
yeah,
with people that make films. It's as simple as that, and that I couldn't have asked for a better vibe. That this is exactly why I do the shit, is for hangs like this. I don't want to paint by numbers. I just want to go all over the place and have fun. So
awesome. Yeah, I did an interview last week, and I felt like kind of a disaster. So this was much. I needed this. This was the shot in the arm. I needed to feel better
well,
about myself.
I'm telling you right now, open door policy. If
Yeah,
you ever want to promote anything, just say, hey man, I'm doing this. Do you want to talk about it? Just consider it a yes. All right.
great, man. Thank you.
All right, brother. We will talk soon,
Yeah.
and I will put this up on Tuesday is when I will release this, mainly because Wellgo told me to embargo it until then. But
Okay, cool. Well, if you can shoot me a link too, that
for
would
sure,
I'll spam it on my social media type stuff.
I will for sure do that. It, like I said, it goes up everywhere. So, like, I mean, and when I mean everywhere, I mean even places like iHeartRadio and stuff. Like
Okay,
you can
great.
find it. You'll be able to find it anywhere. And our video also will be up on obviously YouTube. So,
Awesome, man.
all right,
Well,
man.
thank you
It
so
was great,
much, dude.
dude. I can't wait
Yeah,
to talk again, for real,
yeah,
for
for
real, for real.
sure. All
All right,
right, take
brother.
it easy. Bye-bye.
See ya.